everybody. This actually is a very special episode for Eric and I because back by popular demand, we actually have the entire band back together. This is the Evolution Security reunion tour. It's not just a cash grab like the Black Crowes or Rage Against the Machine. We decided we really wanted to get back together, get the band back together, and we are back together tonight. Brian Schilt, if our old listeners, our longtime listeners will remember him from shows we were counting it up. It may be a little over 100 episodes ago, but do not count Brian out. He is still a part of Evolution Security, but just a silent partner, if you wish. That's probably a good way to describe Brian. He is still involved and still a great friend. And as we'll talk about on this episode, he is an amazing source for Eric and I all the time. And it's rare that we don't have a text thread going on every single day. So, but Brian, thanks for finally coming on after we hounded you. I mean, I don't know how many times
like a year,
turned us down.
It's been a minute. Yeah, it's been a minute. That's we'll get to this later. Craig said the same thing. It's been a minute. How come I haven't seen you in this long?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's probably thinking. Go ahead, Aaron.
Oh no, you go ahead.
I was going to say he probably thought that about me for a while, but of course I trained with him at the Combative Summit, the inaugural one, back. I guess it's a year and a half ago now. So
wow.
It's great to see Craig.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's awesome having you on, Brian, for certain, buddy.
Yeah. Well, I'll spill the beans and tell everyone that a trip to EWO with Craig Douglas is what really got this going, and these guys wanted to hear how that went. So it seemed like too good of an opportunity to pass up.
Absolutely. I thought about it, and I just threw the text out there. I was like, Brian, let's do a little AAR. And what's interesting for me is because, of course, I took EWO. I mean, I had to look at the dates. I mean, it's been well over 10 years. I can't believe I can't remember exactly the date. Maybe it's not that long ago. So my first DCQC was 2010. Yeah. So, man, that's what, 14 years ago. So EWO would have been around a couple of years later. So yeah, it's been over 10 years. So I'm anxious to hear what the differences are, because we know Craig continues to evolve. I mean, I've taken ECQC multiple times. I think the count is 7. I think I would have to really honestly count that again. And every time he evolved and got better. And so I am interested on how EWO has changed. What do you think ultimately? What's your big picture thoughts on the class before we get into some details?
Yeah, no, and I'm going to speak to what you just said real quickly, because that is the joke that they sometimes say during the class, that this is the softer, gentler version because of how this has evolved, because a lot of this stuff started out in gravel parking lots, and we trained on mats with flush bathrooms and a whole locker room. It was amazing. But overall, the class is the way that their training is structured to provide information, show you how to use it practically, and then pressure test that in the same time frame in the same class is just spectacular. And a part of it's it's long and grueling. You're going to get your money's worth, I'll tell you that. But it's definitely it's an awesome experience.
Hey guys, forgive me if you already said something, but I want to make sure before we dig too deep into this that we're talking about Edged Weapons Overview. The
Oh,
Shivworks EWO Edged Weapons Overview. So we're talking about stabbing people here.
yeah, it's a stabby class. But really, I think one of the big takeaways, just like you say, big picture stuff, is that they're looking to demystify the whole knife. Uh, I'm not even sure what the right term is, but this isn't a class for people with a knife fetish. This is a class for people who are interested in defending themselves at zero distance. That's what this is about.
Which
Well,
kind
and
of terrifies me, man.
yeah, I'll say this right now, because I think it's relevant to the point and to the discussion. Is audience members know, pardon me, that I was a instructor under a Dan and Asanto affiliate in Tulsa, Oklahoma, called Gibson's Martial Arts. And of course, one of the big parts of that was the Filipino martial arts, the Kali, Eskrima, Arnis, so on and so forth. And so I was an instructor in those systems. And so I felt fairly comfortable with a blade. The issue is it was in the wrong freaking context, right? So to let you carry on, because I don't want to make this about my experience as much as yours, is that when I took it, I felt, man, this is way more bleak than I had anticipated, even with all my years of working with the blade. And it is an eye opener. But on the flip side, having the background that EWO gives you, it is not, it won't turn out as bad as that first experience. But go ahead, Brian.
Right. No, and to that point as well, their words, not mine. It's about sucking less,
Yep.
and that's really one of the other like fundamental learning things about this is you may or may not survive an encounter because you took this class, but you will suck less.
Yes. Well put.
And that's really, because in a real bad situation, say 2-on-1, 3-on-1, you're probably not going to prevail, but you're probably not going to ball up in the corner and cry either. So it's again, in their words, EWO is more visceral than ECQC being a
Mhm.
little more cerebral. Not that it's not visceral, but the down and dirty on EWO is much closer, much more contact, and much more struggle. And the cool thing about it is they give you tools that you can physically see and feel the difference in, even when you're training with a partner who's maybe bigger than you, but they show you how to do a hold that gives you control over one of their limbs, say, right? And then you go drill that with somebody. But it all starts out with muck, which we all understand, and I'm not going to like do a complete breakdown on the course, but cool thing about muck is you can take that online now. That is an online course available from Shivworks.
We need to push that more,
Yeah,
honestly.
no, and I would encourage anyone to do it. It's uh it's probably the most important part of the course.
Absolutely.
And it's the part I hate the most because you just
Hmm.
have to do it and you get through it. And I understand it and I get it. But I want to get to the pokey or the shooty part, when when you're doing classes like that. But it's the foundation of what will help you be deselected. And we preach that as well. That the real the real win is not engaging. But if you're forced to engage, you have to have some skill and you have to have some comfort with that close contact. So one of the things that we do in the basis is, of course, de-escalating a contact. But if that contact does not de-escalate and approaches, and you have to engage, how do you prevent them from producing a weapon, or how do you prevent them from using a produced weapon in a way that would mortally wound you? And, there's real basic wrestling techniques that are taught. You've got your hooks and your ties as far as, standard, and that's all stuff you're going to learn in jujitsu as well. But this is a little more curtailed directly to how do I use those moves to prevent the weapon from coming out
Oh yeah.
or prevent the weapon from being deployed into me, in the event of a knife. So those are some of the basic skills. And then we get into how do you defensively use your weapon if you're able to produce it in a safe manner or in a function where it makes sense for you to use it as opposed to retreat or withdraw. And that's a very there's a lot of nuance involved in that. It's not just straight A. If A occurs, you produce B. If B occurs, you produce C. It's not quite like that, but they're giving basic tools that you can always build on and you can always learn more. But what they do in that 20-hour block is pretty impressive compared to walking off the street and having zero knowledge. As I hate to admit, I thought I had some knife knowledge. None of the knowledge I had was really proper. I'm not going to say it was all wrong, but my mindset and the way I perceive those to be used is completely different than when I walked in there before the course. And like using, well, here's a huge one. And here we go. Look at this. Oh. Standard grip, pinky grip. I had never pinky gripped a blade intentionally without, I mean, maybe an ice pick, right? Literally for breaking ice, but I'd never used a blade defensively in this fashion. And that was a huge one. And where that's appropriate and how to deploy it and use it effectively in that grip is huge.
Well, real quick, Brian, just because I'm remembering my EWO
Yeah.
experience, did Craig and Brian also at that point when you were exposed to those two methods in the baseline of holding the knife, at one point did you guys actually, in the context of learning, spar like a standard sparring, face-to-face sparring? Now I want to be clear what I mean by this, because some folks will say, and Craig will agree with this, I believe, is that can, back in my collie days, we would put the helmets on and we'd grab the blades and we'd spar, but it was an agreed upon set of rules. You can
Mhm.
argue that some of that sparring in there is similar, but it's for the reason of developing timing and how to move in and out, your footwork and whatnot. But am I correct in that? Did they still
Yeah.
have you guys go through those
Yes.
sparring rounds?
Yes. We did. We did some. We did some. I don't mean live blade, but some live strikes. With a hand pad to feel what that feels like. Using a knife in your hand to impact something, so you knew what that felt like at full speed. And then we donned the helmets and went for it. And what's interesting is they ratcheted up a bit. There's a there's a you both got a knife, and for the standard drill, they just threw us out there knife in hand, and you take pokes at each other, and you're looking for the wingspan.
Yep.
You got to be inside a rim shot, or you're not going to hit them, and the reach to be effective and to get in and out, right? And shout out, which here's my first shout out, John Brown, the proprietor there at North Idaho Jiu-Jitsu, the facility we used. I went up against him in the standard grip, and he's quite a dude. He's very good at striking. Um, I had a little trouble eating my snack because my jaw hurt. I was wearing the helmet. I was not wearing my mouth guard, and I should have been because I didn't even think about it. And he got me a couple of times. Like, even though you're punching with a tack knife, it's an orange foam knife that's semi-rigid, and
Yeah, those are good.
he's got quite a wingspan, and two, his timing is much better than mine was. I got a couple shots in on him, but he definitely dominated me on that round, and that was an interesting thing to really feel, because it if it's applied properly, quickly and assertively, the punch from that tack knife on the helmet is no different than an actual punch.
Yeah.
The impact you feel and the way that your head moves. And if he's following through, the knife might even fold, and you might get a little bit of the knuckle too. And I'm sure that's what happened, is that it glanced, and I got a for real, like, punch. But yeah, we did that, and we actually did that with both grips. So it was cool to see what that was like. And one of the things I learned about pinky grip is it's very effective as far as the power that you can produce out of it. I feel as if you might even be able to produce more power out of a pinky grip than a traditional grip, but it's like the heel of your palm strike, right? And it's definitely it changes the aiming point, though.
Mhm.
So I feel like it definitely changes the way that you engage the strike. So that was a really cool, like, kind of learning moment to observe that and see what that was about.
Well, I'll ask you this, and it's cool because I mean that was a big learning aspect, and I wouldn't see Craig changing that piece because
Hmm.
there's a lot of learning that goes on in that. Even though, okay, two facing off, both with blades, it's a duel, right?
Yeah,
In that sense, right? But making sure the audience understands, we're not talking about that. That's how you train all knife, engagement training. That is a learning tool, right?
yeah,
And it's a valuable learning tool as long as the context is understood. But my point is that it's cool to hear that that's still a part of it.
yeah.
I will ask you this: what did you feel more capable in? What method, either tip down or tip up? Um, what did you feel more capable with?
Yeah, and this really kind of leans more towards what the what the entanglement is, right? I definitely prefer traditional grip for fully entangled. If I am partially entangled or trying to keep someone from re-entangling, I do think that I preferred traditional grip, but I can see where I've if you've lost a blade and recover it, or you have to draw offhand with it, or you have to switch hands, I definitely think that there's a lot of power to be had in that pinky grip. But for most of the functional work, especially entangled, I did feel that I preferred traditional grip.
Oh yeah, yeah, I agree. What I will say is, and this is even from the days when I did a lot of the collie type sparring. When we did it in EWO, there was an aspect. If it was from the outside, from rim shot, it might be my body type, but definitively pinky grip, I had an advantage. But there's no question that the traditional grip for most applications is still my preferred method too.
Yeah, yeah, and it does what and I think you might have, and we're talking inches. We're not talking 6 inches. We're talking 2 or 3 inches.
Mhm.
I think traditional grip gives you a touch more reach, but there's definitely something to be said for that high and tight, you know, stance with
Mhm.
with the pinky grip. How quick you can be with it. So
Okay,
yeah.
Brian, as you're holding that right now, that makes me think, guys. I've never even held my clinch. I don't think I've ever even held my clinch pick in a reverse grip
Yeah. And
because
Aaron, what I
it
will say
feels
is
so.
that the intended purpose of the clinch pick was not a reverse grip.
Yeah.
But what I will tell you is that multiple times in ECQC, I had to draw my clinch pick left-handed.
Uh,
So immediately that reverse grip came because
Mhm.
I was entangled here, or pinned, and I was able to draw left-handed.
then
So
so that also the question I have is if you're right-handed, Brian, the way you were holding it was because if people aren't familiar with the clinch pick, the standard one has a hook blade that is reversed.
Correct.
Basically, so if you're holding it, um, if you're holding it one way that you would normally feel you're supposed to hold a blade, you're not going to be facing the blade to them. So there would have to be more of a hook motion, right? Or can you guys explain to me how
Well,
you were
I'll let
were
you
holding it?
answer, Brian, and I'll give
Yeah.
my take
Yep.
on that.
So most of what is focused on in most knife fighting, and especially in EWO, is is tip and point work.
Yep.
We're gonna plunge it. I don't care which side the sharp is sharp. It's I there's minor nuances between the two, but when you start to be concerned with which side the edge is on, then we're talking about edge work. And edge work is very much useless in 90% of knife fighting. There are times when someone has an exposed limb or is like, you know, pointing something at you, and there may be an opportunity to touch that blade to a forearm or something, and there can be some effectiveness in that. Um, Craig actually did a couple of live cuts on a foam roll during the class, and it was shocking how effective it was. But it is not the intended, because it takes a little more timing and a little more finesse to do it.
Mm,
But in that, because this is the sharp edge, this is dull over here.
yeah.
That is the punch, and at the very end a little hook is the method for an edge strike on an exposed arm or limb, but typically not for a jab or a direct strike. You're looking to plunge the tip, and that is we're already dealing with a small knife. We're not pulling out that's a knife Bowie out of our hip. We're pulling out a last chance defensive device, and we're going to plunge that as deeply as we can into whatever it is that is available for that target.
Yeah, and I second exactly you know your points you made. The small blades are not intended to be a slashing tool
Yeah,
when it
they
comes
can
to
be used that way, and
absolutely.
it's a very limited application for when you would choose to do that. But it's and after doing this, it really makes me rethink. I've got some pretty cool large knives. That's about all they are, is cool large knives.
Yeah.
Mm.
They're not really combative knives. They're tools that do have a sharp edge and you can fight with, but they're really meant to be a survival tool, not a fighting implement.
Well, and Brian, I might add that I just happened to jump on Instagram earlier. I had some break, and I happened to notice that Craig posted one of the demos at
Mhm.
your class. the reason I know it was your class is because you were smack dab in the middle in the film.
I was in the film, yeah.
Yeah. So it was cool. I was like, hey, Brian in there.
Nice.
But yes, and what he mentioned, and forgive me, I can pull it up, but I recall the article and or book that he's referencing, but talking about that a small blade is not like a stick, and because in Kali, there's this whole argument that everything revolves around the same tools motion, if it be a stick, if it be a bolo, if it be a small blade. And this Filipino martial artist many years ago espoused that a small blade is not like a freaking long blade or stick. And I thought that was a real important thing. And he was, for the audience out there, of course, he's using a double-edged disciple. This is a single-edged disciple, black on black here, and using a short arch strike, which you can
Get your
argue is,
thumb off the back of that.
yeah. And so, and then,
Thumb cancer.
so the point is that when you when you're making that strike, um it's not a slash. It's an arcing strike.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, and you're gonna contact the limb or whatever it is, and basically retract through it, not follow through it. You're not swinging it like an axe. You're making a decisive engagement that is then retracted. Yeah.
Uh,
So
interesting.
it's not, you're not really slicing. You're impacting and withdrawing. And
Yeah.
all those movements, and all, whether it's in the edge strike or a point strike, but it's it's not something that you're going to learn how to do by watching this podcast. But that's the fact of the matter, though, is that we're not chopping hands off, we're not chopping fingers off. We're
Well, and I think where this is very relevant is in the old adage, and I might piss a few people off here, is the defanging of the snake that we were taught in Kali, where a person's, and this is kind of in this dual setting where you're faced off, and your objective is to cut the hand holding the knife, and they're going to suddenly just let go of it. That's
Yeah.
honestly, it's been disproven multiple times now.
No, and there's a video that was recently shown where the dude was like cut through the front of his quad all the way to the bone, and he still
Oh
walks
yeah.
around as a threat. It's like, this is no different than pepper spray or taser or even a handgun. uh, Getting poked with a knife does not instantly disable and render your aggressor harmless.
Mm-mm.
The point is, it's not going to feel good. It is going to continue to not feel good, and the intent is to break and disengage. That's the whole point. That is the whole point
Br-
behind all of this.
Brian, I think I know what you're talking about. I saw, and I was going to bring it up because it was a video that shows the chaotic nature of a, well, not even chaotic. It's actually the lack of chaos sometimes that you see in a knife engagement. If you're talking about the video I'm talking about, you didn't even know this guy's on the ground and he just half sliced the guy's leg off.
Right. Like,
I mean,
whoa.
you don't even know it happened. Then that dude starts walking off, and he's got like a Pac-Man leg
Exactly what
walking
I'm
off.
talking about. Yeah. Yeah. It's disgusting.
Yeah, and it was like that happened so fast, like it was some supernatural thing, and it shows how dangerous it can get real fast when you think you're just in a tussle with some guy, and
Mhm.
you don't even know that he just sliced your leg open.
Right. Right.
But yeah.
Well, yeah, the blade, man. It's a dangerous thing. I've always felt that, of course, we know that our both of our main tools that we carry, obviously, well, we'll just say our three tools: pepper spray, a blade, and a pistol. Um, they have their different roles. But I've always felt like, man, um, I definitely would rather not be in a knife fight if I can keep from
Oh
it.
yeah. And I mean, I just
I don't
need
want to
to
be in any fight, but yep, go
I,
ahead.
I need to say loud and clear that regardless of what we're carrying, this is never with the intent that like, man, I've trained for this so I can do it. I hope I never do it. That is 100%. I have no interest in deploying any of these things I've learned, and that's the reason I do it is so that I'm harder to kill and I'm more likely to survive an encounter should I be forced into one. But I have no interest in going to find one.
Right. Excellent way to put it, buddy. And so two things I'd like to approach now, because I know we want to get into a few other details and talk about some of the evolutions. But for our audience out there that may have some knowledge of Shivworks material, a big base, and you already kind of mentioned it, but a big base of this is clinch wrestling,
Yes.
right? So it's a big aspect of it. And the other aspect of it is obviously, where Craig really kind of pushed the model. And Craig also admits, yeah, there might have been a few people, but likely not that many, doing what he was doing with simunitions on the road.
Hmm.
I still think that, ultimately he's the godfather
Oh
of,
yeah.
of at least in the mainstream for certain.
Yeah, when he
Um,
started doing what he was doing with simunitions, they had a pile of stuff, a couple of helmets, and a dirt patch, and they would go do this. Basically, it was Fight Club.
yep. Yeah, that's the way he certainly describes it.
Yeah. No,
Um,
it's cool.
the and I know we're going to talk about some of the evolutions, but I think the point is for our audience out there, because they hear us, you guys in the audience hear us talk about the importance of force on force. Well, EWO absolutely has force on force with
Hmm.
blades.
Yeah.
With 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 now are they using the knock knives or they're using the tack? They're using the tack
Attack.
knives,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, the
Yeah.
tack knives are nice. I'm looking to get some of those. That's what we used at the combative summit. They're really nice.
Yeah.
Um, but again, a simulated fight, and I think that's the importance for everybody to realize is that you and Brian, you're in several knife fights in your brain, not
Right.
novel knife fights, and the importance of going through that in developing your brain's mental maps to deal with a knife fight. So
Hmm.
that's another reason why folks need to seek out this type of training. But go ahead, buddy.
Yeah. No, and it was interesting. There's another shout out I'll give right now. My friend Michael that I've trained with before, and I hate to say this on the air, Aaron, but he's the most dangerous guitar player I know. Um, he's been to, I think this was his third EWO, and he's done training with um, Cecil, and he's done ECQC, I believe, multiple times as well. And you know, it's cool to see guys who aren't Eric, who have taken 5 or 6 classes from Craig, um, that, Eric's not an anomaly is what I'm saying. There's a lot of people who will do this annually or every other year just to stay fresh and to remember the pressure and what needs to be done to go through with it, because this is it's just as much mental as it is physical. These are 11, 12-hour days, if you take lunch out, and you are being stressed mentally, physically, and it's over new material. And the beauty of it is that it all gets tied up at the end with what we've been alluding to, these evolutions, where you learned 5 new things today. You take those 5 things and you apply them to a force on force where you are at a disadvantage, typically. And that's a it's a pretty amazing thing to see, whether you are dominant or not, how well that works and how you can better protect yourself and stay safer if this were to happen in a real world situation.
Well said. So, um, what do you want to describe the evolutions that you went
Yeah,
through?
yeah. There was one at the, and we did some pair off force on force stuff, like the with the training with the standard grip and the pinky grip. But the at the end of each day, we had a really solid test each day, and day one was murder wall, and murder wall. Everybody gathers around, and there's they kind of keep you contained just by standing around, but I had I had my mouthpiece in, and I had a I had a blade on my body, and a tack knife, not a blade, and there was the other guy had a helmet and boxing gloves. I didn't get a helmet. So what you got to do is defend yourself, create space, either control his limbs to stop from hitting you or land knife strikes that would cause real world damage. And it ain't over till they say it's over. And they don't go terribly long. But we would do that, and then you swap so that you both get a chance to be the good guy or the bad guy, right? And that was pretty enlightening at the end of day one. And there was a lot of physical activity during the day, so I was tired, man. It really took a toll, and so I went home, or went to the hotel and soaked in the tub for a few minutes because I was feeling it, man. And woke up the next morning, could barely move, and that's fine. But that was day one.
Well, and let's be mindful too. You know, you take your fitness, your strength, and your conditioning serious. So I mean, the point is that they're still exhausting days, no matter what condition you're in. But I know that all three of us agree that, when you're doing hard things like that, it makes you that much better and your mindset that harder. So yeah,
Yeah.
awesome, man.
Yeah, and it was interesting because I didn't know what was coming or what we were doing, and we got pretty late in the day, and then we started doing that. And it takes a bit of time because it's a decent sized class, so you're pairing off and you're doing that. But even more interesting is after learning some more advanced techniques and some more control and some more defensive moves on at the end of day two, we got murder corner. So you get two walls, and it's 2-on-1. So you start out in a controlled clinch, meaning you've got a hook and a tie. You get a hook and a tie. So you've got the guy. You don't necessarily have control of him, but you've got the semblance of control in a fashion that you can probably stop it from getting worse, right? So you've established a stabilized amount of control. So everybody's wearing helmets now, and so you both got a knife. You're in this clinch, and then there's a guy with a helmet and boxing gloves, and Craig's got a hold of his elbow for 6 seconds. So you have 6 seconds to solve this clinch problem, right? So if you get fully entangled with the dude and he's getting like a seat belt on you or some type of underhook hold that you can't move out of, well, he just gets to hold you while the other guy wails on you, literally. And I was able to resolve my clinch problem. And even though I did that, I did not keep enough space. I'm trying to think of how I did not have a good enough grasp on the available space around me to maintain distance from both of them, and I got bullied into the corner, and that sucked. and they're yelling, "Get out of the corner! Get out!" I'm like, "Yeah, easier said than done." And I did wiggle out of the corner, and I was landing strikes, and I kept moving for the rest of it. And thankfully for me, the guy with the gloves, his helmet came off, so they called. I think they were about to call it anyway, but there was definitely a period in there where I'm getting punched and I'm getting smacked with the other guy's knife, and I'm like, "Are we done yet?" Call it, call it, But Craig felt I had some more learning to do there. The funny part about that was when he pulled me in, he pointed, and I looked behind me, and he goes, "No, no, you, Brian," and I was like, all right, all right. And I pull up, and he goes, "You're gonna be the boxer first," and that meant that I was the good guy last. So
Yes.
I was pretty gassed by the time, because that one you change places, so you go 3 rounds back to back
Mm.
to back. So by the time I was in that third round, I was pretty gassed. But I had guys say that I did a great job, and it sure didn't feel like it. And we'll get to watch video later, but it was it was a great learning experience. It really was. And I will say I moved quick as soon as he said go, but I was the only one to duck under and get behind.
Nice.
No one else resolved the clinch instantly.
That's awesome,
So
man.
I'll take that. I'll do a little humble brag. Little humble brag.
And you bring up a real important point for all of us that have taken Shivworks classes. The 2-on-1s, they are the hardest learning.
Yeah, you
And
got to
and,
move. You got to move. That is
and
Just
then
what flavor shit sandwich do you want to have?
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I watched a couple guys. There was a couple guys, and I don't know if it was intentional or it just worked out, but there was one guy that was keeping a guy at arm's length, and the guy was smaller than him, so it's not like he wasn't taking hits, but he was able to hold him away. And every time the guy with the boxing gloves would come in, he would pivot the dude, and he kept that dude between him and the guy with the gloves the entire time. And I'm like, that is freaking spectacular. I have no idea if he planned it, but there was one of them that I watched. It was impressive to watch.
what I will say, and I'm bringing this up for only one reason. That is a 2-on-1 strategy
Yeah,
that's taught, is trying to maintain keeping one person between you and the other person.
right,
It's a sound principle. It doesn't always work.
right, right.
So, but I have to bring up what I do remember of my 2-on-1 experience at EWO. And of course, a shout out to Chris LeBlanc, one of my most important mentors. Of course, he's there in Washington, and he and Mike Sealing are the ones that hosted EWO in Vancouver, Washington. And if anybody knows who Mike Sealing is, he's a freaking stud. Of course, he's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. I think he was a brown belt at the time. But he also judo, and a wrestler. And so like Craig beautifully does for me, is he gives me the baddest MFers in the room.
Yep.
And so Mike Sealing was one of them, and I honestly don't remember the other person. I think Craig put in another one of the other guys that probably wasn't to the skill level as Mike Sealing. But what I will tell you is I seem to recall it was a similar beginning. I don't know that we started at the wall, though. I really don't remember that piece. It's been that long ago. But what I will tell you is that once Mike Sealing got a hold of my legs and wrapped them up and took me to the ground, so you have no mobility in your legs. And so, I mean, he was essentially holding my legs while the other guy, just
Yep.
going at it with this. And I'm trying my best to, you know,
Yep.
but I'm telling you, that was a winningless battle, if I can even
Yeah.
say that.
And I
You
think
know,
the biggest takeaway from that is, for me, the thing that I'm proud about in that entire experience was, even after being trapped in the corner, I continued to defend throughout the round. I did
Yes.
not ever stop
A-
defending.
and I think that is most important, to really sink in, audience members out there that have not done any training like this. Just because you're getting stabbed, and you are likely going to, and let me be careful, I'm not saying like the old adage, if you're in a knife fight you're going to get cut. That's not necessarily true.
Right.
But in these instances, you likely are. In this training environment, 2-on-1, you're probably going to get cut up. The point is you got to keep defending yourself. If you don't, and you don't already have that mental map that you're going to, regardless if you're getting cut, you're going to limit that knife getting buried in you, as Craig says it, and you're going to try your best to survive. You know,
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
can't stop fighting for certain. Good point, buddy.
Yeah. No, and that's I'll wrap the EWO talk up with just a couple more things. The other shout I want to give out is to a gal named Kim with Cam Defense. Great gal. Really enjoyed spending the weekend and training with her, and we got paired off in several of the training sessions. And um, I'm thinking she was the only girl there. One, don't not come if you're a girl. You
Yeah.
will get what you need and you will be taken care of. But the whole time, she's only 5'5" or something. She's a little gal, and I'm thinking, oh, be gentle. I don't want to hit. I don't want to be put too much pressure. Whatever when we're doing our drilling. And um, we sparred in the second match of the knife holding deal. I think it was in the pinky hold actually. And man, it's amazing too, because with those helmets, especially if it's in the face shield, when somebody makes a good hit with a tack knife, you just hear this thwack.
Yeah.
You think about smacking a mallet on a piece of plastic. And you hear it and you're like, holy crap, that would have been an impressive blow had that been, live with a real edge, right? And she got several of those on me. I was shocked. And we get all done, say our goodbyes, say, hey, have a great weekend, rest of your night. See you at another training. I look her up when I get home. Black belt Krav Maga, brown belt Jiu-Jitsu.
Is that all?
And you
Jeez.
said, that
Great gal,
explains
though.
it.
Great gal. She does personal training. She's awesome.
That's a man, great AAR. What I will say, and I like to capture this, and again, I say I think all of us can attest to this. After you're done, the elation that you feel of any
Yeah.
of these courses is just awesome, isn't it?
Yeah, it's amazing. And I think the last little piece that I'll mention is, and this is anybody that's done either of these or done ECQC, the the thing with ECQC is, man, you just hate getting shot with your own gun, right? Like if there's only one gun, or like you've been disarmed and you get your opponent's simunition gun and you cap them with it, it's so terrible getting shot with your own gun. In ECQC, when you get to some of the final evolutions and they allow outside weapons, right? Now, these are trainers; they're not obviously not real weapons, but when you think you've got the upper hand in an Evo and ECQC, and all of a sudden you feel something poking you in the ribs, and you realize you're being stabbed with a clinch pick,
Yeah.
and Craig calls it because you just got stabbed to death.
You're getting stabbed. You're getting
Man,
stabbed.
I remember here, Eric, an evolution that you did. I remember you were slicing somebody up, and Craig going, "You're getting stabbed. You're getting
yeah,
stabbed."
yeah. Because you think you're like, wow, that's a really pokey punch. Oh,
It's an aluminum trainer.
yeah, yeah. They definitely, yeah,
Yeah,
it's cool.
like I keep picking it. This is my disciple trainer.
Yeah.
My clinch pick trainers in my jiu-jitsu bag.
My trainers are still in my luggage because I'm not that guy that unpacks when you get home from a trip. That
No,
bag will get unpacked in about a week. Yeah.
don't you know the recommendation behind that regarding bag bugs is you shouldn't.
Yeah.
unpack right away.
Really.
Oh, there you go. Well, see, yeah, let them die. Yeah, right.
Hey
It,
guys,
you,
I did want to say I'll tell you where my trainer clinch pick is. It's back in Seattle, Washington Airport.
oh
Oh,
no, you didn't tell that story, bro.
Yeah, dude. Of course, in Oklahoma, you get on the. I got on the plane with it. Didn't think about it going back from Seattle, and oh yeah, they took it right away from me.
yeah.
Man,
That's a.
sucks. I
You
need
mean
to
they
get a
couldn't
new one.
tell that that was a trainer?
Yeah, well, I'm sorry. I'm just going to assume some person working in the Seattle airport wasn't too fond of someone that was training in martial
I
arts.
think that's
I'm maybe
bullshit.
I'm being a little bigoted there, but
No, I mean I think you can figure out if that's a real blade or if it's something to train. It's has a
it's
blue or an orange handle.
it's thick aluminum and it has little, it's got holes drawn. Now, of course, it could be used to as an impact weapon of some sort, but at the same time, there's a gazillion impact weapons in a freaking
Oh, yeah.
plane. But another story for another day, I guess. That's enough of that. But
Well, excellent AAR, Brian, for certain, man.
Yeah,
I
I'd
love hearing.
recommend it 100%. Take water, take electrolytes, take ibuprofen.
It is funny when you're going to an ECQC or an EWO or any of those types of classes. I mean, folks that know you're bringing lots of water.
Yeah.
Packing. I think all of us always at least had a gallon and a half
Well,
of
and you can
water.
tell, yeah, you can tell the guys that really get it because they literally have a gallon jug.
Yep.
They just
Yep.
the gallon bottle, because if you've flown in or drove in or didn't, whatever, you got to grab something at the store or whatever, you don't have your bottles with you, and yeah, just buy a gallon, you're good to go.
Yes. And that's the way I've done that for a long time. And of course, I don't have one of my Nageline bottles or even a smart water bottle that I'll put my electrolytes in and
Mhm.
put water in it. But yeah, at least have a gallon with you. I like to try to bring a gallon and a half with me on those training days. But so, well, cool. Awesome. Well, man, Brian, I'll tell you, I mean, I know we got a few other things to talk about, but man, it's a blast having you on this evening, man. It's really awesome, man.
Yeah, it's cool. We like like Aaron was saying, we typically got a little chat thread rolling daily or every other day, and then once in a while we'll throw a phone call, but it's never we don't do a three-way call. I'll talk to one of the TAC twins, but it's pretty cool to get to see you guys both together, man.
Hell yeah.
And look at that, Velo
Uh-oh.
5,
Oh
oh,
yeah. What
Velo 5.
and what pistol is that in that one? I
Well,
couldn't
that's a
see it.
Sig macro, of course.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
the
that's
365 family, man.
yeah, and
You know,
there's the Velo 4, which I still love and still use. I am thinking about actually getting that new Sig optic for the macro. This is an XL on a macro slide, but so same grip module, um, slightly longer barrel without the porting. That's really the only difference between these two is the porting and the barrel length.
so Brian, I take it that you've pretty much went to the larger 365 variants as your primary carries now?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's I still have all that other stuff. I mean, it just it's more ergonomic. It has a better factory trigger. It's not going to say that you can't buy like a super cool trigger for Glock. You can. It has a better factory trigger, and it's more rounds, less weight, and smaller than a 19.
yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I sit here and I've told you this many times. Right now what I'm carrying on me
yeah.
is my little 43. That's my
Oh
main
yeah.
house gun.
Yeah.
and I tell used to give me a hard time when the 365 came out, but I think my response typically was, "Yep, Sig got that small 365 right."
Oh, they
I still
for sure.
I still love this 43. But
Well, the I think the point is that when you're in an ecosystem, you you want to stay with one of them for the most part. So especially when it comes to let's be very clear when it comes to your carry guns. If you're going to carry a Glock, probably stick to Glocks. Your handful of Glocks. Same thing with if you're carrying 365s, have two or three 365s that cover
Mhm.
your carry situations. And we're all talking about defensive pistols as good as it gets. It doesn't get any better than I'm talking about for carry. For carry, it doesn't get any better than the Glocks. It doesn't get any better than the SIGs. You got some MMPs, and but there's no denying that SIG smacked everybody around when they dropped that
yep,
365.
yep, no question.
Did you see the ad when they dropped the 320? And I believe it was pre-contract. I don't think they'd actually even gotten the contract yet, but it was a picture of the pistol, and there was like I think there was like descending from it. There was like a 19 and an M&P and an XD and these other things. And it's like, and I said, "We'd like to thank you all for your work. We've got it from here."
Uh, that's
It's
that's
just like so arrogant. I'm like, fair enough.
that is,
Now,
that's a
go
good
ahead, Aaron.
ad.
Yeah.
I haven't I haven't spoke with Craig recently, but I think he was moving towards the 365 system for his
Yeah.
main carry.
I don't know what his actual loadout is, but yeah, I know that he's very fond of them. You know,
Yeah,
and
I don't know if he's completely just switched over because again, over the years we've been used to his Glock 19s and whatnot.
right.
But yeah, it
And
is a nice pistol, and Aaron can attest. We've been seeing a ton of the 365, the larger variants in our classes.
yeah,
Oh yeah.
and they really are. They fit good in the hand, and you can always change the grip module if you want the smaller. I've got two or three different grip modules now because I've moved things around, but also Aaron
Ah,
Uh-oh.
so
22
so
mag.
oh man,
Oh,
awesome.
really?
Now what is that? Is that a Smith or is
Yeah,
it?
yeah, it's the Airlight PD. So it's uh, it's the it. They don't make the 22 mag out of the scandium. It's aluminum alloy frame, but it's a aluminum alloy cylinder with steel liners in the cylinder. So it's a 7-shot instead of a 9, like a lot of
Yeah.
22 magnums have a 9, but those are steel cylinders. But this thing is, I mean, loaded, I think it's like 12 or 13 ounces. It's
Yeah.
nothing. I mean, you'll forget it's in your pocket for real.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
most
Aaron.
likely, yeah, the an LCR in 22 will most likely be my next pistol. It's either going to be that or the new CZ Nocturne, um,
Hmm.
which I want both for again rounding out my skill set for teaching. The
Hmm.
good thing is in this day and age, I'm telling you, almost everybody shows up with a striker fire pistol.
Yep.
So it's almost easier being not easier. It's almost easy being an instructor these days, not having to be well versed with those other platforms. And I'll tell you that's why again the audience has heard me talk about taking the Range Master Instructor Development course, and I'll just say that Tom got on to me a little bit when I was working on the reloads. That wasn't fun, but
Hmm.
hey, man, we had a class full of great shooters, and most everybody was not that great with the revolvers.
Yeah.
Right. So I didn't mean to go off on that, but other than I probably will make that LCR my next pistol.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite memes is the like closet full of handguns, and it says, "I think I have a problem. I need more revolvers." Because they're all like striker fired pistol.
Yes.
There's that. I definitely have a problem. I need more revolvers. I love revolvers.
Yeah, and I'm really angry at myself because I had an LCR 38 and I put a big dot on top of it, and I really loved that pistol. And then I had a Smith 642 that I really loved, and I think I've told myself multiple times I would not sell guns.
Yeah,
But
I know. I know.
let's just face it, we still do that to ourselves sometimes. And I'm so angry at myself. I sold both those pistols. And yeah. So, and like Aaron, unfortunately, I didn't get to be at that Master IDC because of work. So I'm preparing for that IDC in March, and I'm starting to work more on revolver again, and I'm working with a Ruger GP 100, or is it 101? I'm gonna mess up, but
GP 100 or SP 101. So it's a GP 100.
yeah. So I absolutely still prefer Smiths, but I bought that from my dad to keep it in the family, and it's a good full size revolver that'll be good for the class. So that's what I'm going to use. I'm not going to spend any extra money grabbing a revolver before that class.
Right.
Well, Brian, I'll kind of brag on you a little bit, and not that our audience hasn't actually probably heard this before, but we've got a few more minutes here that we can chat about something I wanted to talk about. But I'll just say to the audience that the reason why we often have text conversations going on, a lot of it's just fun banter because we're all such great friends, but often it's getting gear advice from Brian, and it's just hilarious. Anything I have a question about, I'll shoot Brian a text, and it's almost like before I can even finish the text, he's rattling off a buttload of details. You need this, you need this. Don't get this because it's this issue, and you really don't need that. They're going to say, so I know I'm rambling, but at the same time, you get the point. Brian rattles shit off of at the top of his head, and it's kind of like, how does he know all this
Well,
stuff?
I definitely have an opinion. I've never been accused of not having one of those.
Well, and frankly, though, in this instance, a lot of the times it's not just an opinion. Often you're kind of given just an experienced answer and almost an agnostic answer in a lot of ways.
Hmm. Yeah, and
But
it's exposure and trial and error because I definitely on some of the things, and I'll be upfront when I say too. I'll be like, hey, maybe go check this website because I don't know about that. But if it's something I got knowledge on, it's probably because I learned the hard way,
mhm.
trying it out, using something, and then not liking what I had or finding that this works much better. Yeah.
Well,
Well, and
so
go ahead, Aaron.
I was just going to say, suffice it to say, you're definitely one of my favorite sources for firearms information. So
I laugh about this because Aaron and I have really, really gotten pretty good about not stepping on each other over these years. And we bring Brian back and it's, go ahead, man. Oh, no, you go ahead.
Yeah. Oh no.
I think it, I think
Excuse
it's
me.
I think it's honestly hilarious because it's like the band's back together, and but
Yeah.
at the same time, I think it's fun to bring up the fact, because this is a special episode having Brian back on, is it's such a cool story when I think back to how we met. And it
Well, okay, I'm going to stop you
okay,
because
let's
I'm going to tell it. So
okay.
you just last, I believe it was last episode, we're talking about the nice BCM hat, whatever. And I met Eric because he was wearing a BCM hat at
Yep.
a ham radio testing session. And if I'm not mistaken, we both were getting our general.
Yep.
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 Yeah,
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
2017, I believe it was.
Yeah.
My license is hanging up there. I can't see right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, what an awesome way to meet a lifelong friend and still have such a kind of a fun memory
Yeah.
about it. And that's what you said, nice hat. And
Yeah.
then you gave me your back when you were doing because a lot of Brian's knowledge because he's been in this industry. He was a dealer, class 3 dealer, a builder, and so yeah, it was just kismet. And what I also think is kind of fun is although you and I um, we got together or were on the radios a couple of times and then we kind of drifted apart for a
Mhm.
while. And just like the fact that when I thought about doing this gig is immediately the only two names I had in my head was Brian Schilt and my brother Aaron. And so it's just kind of fun. And at that point, I think that's when I'm like, man, I'm seeking out Brian and I'm gonna get back with him again. And at some point I'm gonna bring up this subject and we'll see if this
No,
so
it's good. It's good stuff, man. It's good stuff. Yeah, funny enough, like cuz you guys are still doing training and you're offering private lessons and you do a event once in a while and I'm going to give the old man a shout out because the guy that ran that North Idaho Jiu-Jitsu was talking to me and we were getting to know each other a little bit and he goes, "Oh, well, when are you guys offering trainings? I like to get training in at least once or twice a year." I said, "Well, that'd be great. We'd love to give you some training, but if you're looking to take like a vacation training exercise, go see Tom Givens." I was
yeah.
like, "Dude, we have a finite amount of time left with Tom." And I don't mean like this year. I don't know. But like when I watch people start to age out, Tom is someone you go get all the training you can from that guy.
What well said, Brian. And to be honest with you, that is why I am not missing opportunity to take the
Yeah,
Master IDC because
absolutely.
and because I've spoke about this on the air. I won't talk about specific times, but I'm about to go back overseas for a
Yeah,
little while, and so that can stretch the amount of time that I can
right.
take that class with Tom, and I think ultimately for so our because there's a lot of range master listeners on this show. It's just that Tom's probably going to retire at some point. It's
Yeah.
not that we expect him to. It's not at
Yeah,
all
there's
that
nothing
we expect.
looming that any of us know
Yeah,
about.
not
No,
all, not any of that. It's
no.
just that I think at some point Tom's going to go. You know what? I'm gonna let all the guys and gals that I've been passing on this knowledge. I'm gonna let them take over this mantle.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah, dude, range master's not gonna end. I guarantee
Oh,
that. But it's just that you're not gonna be able to get the training directly from Tom, and it's certainly a great experience. That class a few weeks ago. I mean, the amount of cool information that you're probably not gonna get in any other classes because of Tom's background. He's been in the middle of the modern firearms instruction community industry. I know there's some words that people don't like to use referring to it, but that he's been in the thick of it uh, along with all the other greats. And you know, there was one section where we went through. I think it was 40 monumental people um, in the last 100 years. of firearms instruction. And, many of the people he was talking about were his buds and his peers. So not just people he knew about, but worked with and stood, shoulder to shoulder with. So that can't be overlooked for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, guys, I think we've come to a point to where we might call it a night. I did want to talk about some other stuff here tonight, Brian, but you know what? This gives us an excuse to hound you to come back on here real soon. I mean, this is the reunion tour. We've only announced this one date right now, but we'll announce another date in the near future,
There
and
may be future
hopefully
dates. Yeah. Yeah.
hopefully it'll be in your town. Well, guys, it's been a lot of fun. Again, a special episode. I've had just lots of reminiscing and the sound of Brian's voice, not just
Yeah.
through text, but and seeing you there. Hopefully people. I'm sure Brian, people remember us, and I know you listen to the show too.
Yeah.
And I'm sure every now and then your ears perk up because we're talking about you.
Yeah, you're calling me out.
Or saying something nice because you deserve it.
Or
So,
often it's
yeah,
like,
we
hey, I
definitely
need
call
to.
you out too.
And often it's like, man, hey, yeah, I need to ask Brian about that. I wonder how many times that or that similar phrase has come out. But well, bro, the just a little hint. This is some of the stuff I recently purchased through your help. So
Nice.
I want to get you on literally very soon. Not too long. We're talking week or two or whatever when we can get together, because I want to talk about reloading more in depth for
Yeah,
me
I'd be happy to.
and for our audience, because you know what? I haven't heard much about reloading on podcasts like ours, so I think that'd be a good topic for everybody to hear about.
Absolutely.
All right, guys. Good night. Love you all and be
Love you
safe.
guys.
Talk to you soon.
God bless. Good night.
God bless you, buddy.